Thank you. So actually, I'm just going to show you two pictures because we celebrated 10 years in July, in June actually, and yeah, it was a great moment. We were in Sicily with in our partners meeting, so it was a nice moment to share. But this is Melting Pro. We are a group of 7 women, and our mission is to try to lower the barriers to cultural participation. So what we do is to provide services and support cultural organizations, meaning museums, theaters, art centers, community centers. So we support them to try and understand what are the barriers, what kind of barriers they have, what are the barriers for people to attend their events. So what is called audience development in a sense. So how to not only increase the numbers of people attending cultural events, but also building a relationship, with their audiences. And so we are a group of 7 women that were brought together, but by this sense of changing the way the cultural sector worked in Italy. So we share the same values of justice, of empathy, of environmental sustainability, and we all think that culture is a tool for a better society. So it's not, we don't perceive arts like an art's sake, but arts and culture as a tool to become better citizens. What we do is, we provide and support cultural organizations and individuals through training, through consultancy, through helping them seek funds to develop their cultural projects. And we have an horizontal structure. Our decision-making process is very horizontal, so we don't have a boss. We are the bosses, our own bosses. Each of us is a boss. And actually, this is funny because once with a Spanish partner, he asked us, what does your boss think of you? We said, which boss? We don't have a boss. And so we are, and this is difficult because, since you don't have a boss, you have to be kind of very regulated, you have to be very self-regulated somehow. And of course, this is where we struggle because we perceive, so we have a strategy, we have a mission, we have our shared values, but we also have our own interests as cultural managers, let's say. So sometimes we struggle in pursuing personal projects, but that are somehow aligned they they don't have a financial outcome. But of course, you know, we need to have the financial outcomes, because I mean, we pay our own salaries, and now we have collaborators, and you know, so we are also responsible for other people, and so, you know, we struggle a lot with balancing these two. And also, you know, as Giulia was saying, to us, it's also dear the flexibility that we can find in our own company. So something that it's difficult to find in a company that is not your own, because we were all working for another organization, and we felt that they were not taking care of us as people, or as even women, you know, because you know, there was no space for family, you know, it was difficult, you know. So we are still struggling a lot on you know, to balance our financial objectives, our social objectives, and our creative objectives. But at the same time, we know it's really important. So basically, this is who we are in a more business-like way, and this is how we present ourselves when we go to to, as Giulia was saying, partners meeting, and you know, when we, you know, go to talk to fundraise, and we go to pitch our ideas to someone else. So Giulia, I don't know if I forgot something that you wanted to add to this description, or otherwise I'll leave the floor to you.
I'm happy to start my story of Melting Pro from my perspective, and there's other information that are available from our website that presents how we are structured in 4 areas, operational areas, and the kind of projects and consultancy. Mainly, these are the 2 fields of action for us. And so other information can be found in our website, and also we will leave the floor to questions soon. But first, maybe I'll share my story as a founding member of Melting Pro. I'll share my screen, okay?
Yep, okay.
Okay. So where did it begin? For me, it began here. This is the photo of a beautiful cultural institution in the heart, in the center of Rome, where I started working as a freelance project designer and manager in 2007-8, a long time ago. And I was here, but I was also working with other archives. This was an audiovisual project, so I would go here, meet the people who worked here, but I was also quite free and independent at the time. I was in my second half of my 20s, so still pretty young to keep this kind of job in between places, until I got a job offer from this place, this cultural institution, to join their team, a team that they were creating to really try and push their development in the European project field. So they wanted to get more international, they wanted to create a little bit of a task force, and they wanted to create it with a bunch of young professionals, mainly women, that started to push this European project management side of work for this institution. So this is where I met with my future partners at Melting Pro, because we were all working in this cultural institution, all came from different paths, all came from the same background in humanities, but I was really impressed that even though we all came from humanities, we all came from different universities, different degrees, so similar but different. And we didn't know each other before working there. So I was a little hesitant. On one hand, I wasn't sure this was the place I wanted to be working. I wanted to become an employee because this is an institution that has an archive linked to a political party in Italian history that I don't feel connected with in terms of political views. So I was always felt always a little bit detached. Interesting archive and heritage, but not particularly aligned with my point of views. At the same time, this was a great group of young professionals, and they were motivated. They were great people, and was a great way to get to know new people, because I moved to Rome not much earlier than that. So I needed to. So I accepted the job, and we started working. And we started with new European projects together. We really created our own expertise as we were implementing the projects. And there was a mix of freedom and a mix of really not freedom, because then we always had to report to someone else, and we always had to stick with this arguable ethics in the way things were managed at this cultural institution. So we grew as a group, as professionals, and at the same time we were growing as professionals. We felt that this place was not exactly the place where we could flourish, where we could really grow at our best. Plus, they were not really interested in giving us more than precarious jobs and contracts, which was an issue for some of us, not for myself particularly, because I knew I was always going to go there and leave at some point. And so I remember that I can't tell who brought it up, but someone said, why don't we do the same work, but for ourselves? Why don't we create our own organization? Why don't we? And I had been there before. Through my teenage, I've always been very active in culture and initiatives at local level. We start a volunteering company, we do an organization. So I said, sure, fine, but who knows if it's going to become something concrete. But yes, let's do it. Let's do it in a very light way at first, without a big investment, because we were all sort of young and precarious. And what made me excited was this sense of enthusiasm and freedom that we were all projecting together. We were already colleagues. We had previous experience in working together. And by the time we reached 2011, which is the moment Melting Pro was born, we had already previous experiences as colleagues. Antonia and I had already done a European project on mentoring cultural professionals. We were becoming friends. There was enthusiasm. And I was sure we had a shared purpose, which is what Antonia was mentioning. We all wanted to be active in the cultural field to try and really make sure people would participate and take part and be involved, not just for the sake of preservation and beautiful heritage, and which was a little bit what that cultural institution was doing, more than really opening up cultural experiences for more people. So that we really shared. We had some interests in common. So there was this sense of enthusiasm and promise of freedom. At the same time, even back then, I was realistic, and I was trying to assess the risk that we were taking. So I had concerns. One of the first things we wanted to invest, besides the little money that we put in creating our cultural association, was a workshop that was promoted and organized by Goldsmiths University of London, the Institute for Culture and Creative Entrepreneurship. I don't know if you know it, but it's a very, very interesting place where we met Adrian Delacour, who is probably our main mentor as Melting Pro was born and developed. And he came, we invited him and paid him to come to Rome to spend 2 full days workshopping around our new association. And amongst the beautiful ideas, what he told us is, oh, you guys are 7 women. 7 is a large company. 7 means you have to pay 7 salaries. It's not a joke, it's a starting point. So I remember this made me feel, well, I guess it's true. So a little bit concerned. Then we were becoming friends, and that was another concern. So it made me happy as well as concerned, because that's where you start maybe mixing the dynamics of colleagues and friends. Are we going to be able to keep a balance? Are we going to be able to be committed to work as we're also sharing so much of our private lives? And also how to become a team that self-manages and functions in a way that can really implement a strategy for a company that wants to exist and prosper and stay. Then the motivation came, the satisfaction. And how did it come? It came because we kept doing what we knew. So develop new projects. And what you see here is 2 pictures, one from 2012 and one from 2013. So we're still pretty much at the beginning of our Melting Pro. And one is the result of a big national grant that we received for one of the main projects we started in TUS. And another one is Antonia and I, a long, long time ago, with our first European project in audience development. So somehow we invested our skill set, the skill set that we had developed previously, to try and create the basis for our company and also for our team, because we were actively involved in projects. We didn't spend too much time overthinking how are we going to function, how are we going to be structuring our team. First, we started, and then we reorganized as we were going. It wasn't easy. I wasn't always comfortable with this. I think coming from an institution or other environment, I felt maybe we need to define roles and tasks and functions. That would have been a little bit of a stretch then. So first we needed to create a basis of collaboration and cooperation in order to become a team, in order to feel as a company, and then decide what kind of internal organization we were going to have. What else made me feel back then we are becoming a company? A very simple thing, and this really this storytelling that Antonia wanted me to do about Melting Pro really helped me understand this part. So we started, and 2 big projects, one national, one European, started right away. Beautiful. We didn't have an internal organization. We were structuring ourselves as we were going, but at the same time, there were some basic aspects to take care of. Administration. You cannot manage an association, even in the lightest form, without taking care of the administrative side of bills and grants that come in and salaries to pay. And right at the beginning, because we did not have a structure, but we knew what was more each one of us the strongest skills, mine was the administrative side. And so I was the one taking care of creating a little bit of a system on how to manage our income and our payments. So I used my Excel, very basic skills, but they were actually enough to try and understand how to manage our finances. I think that one of the greatest satisfaction nowadays is to hear many balance sheets later and accountancy later, that my colleagues still say, Giulia, the way you structure our system, our administrative system, allowed us to get where we are. And it was conservative, it was cautious, it was very simple. And we definitely, as a group, decided to wait until we could get to real salaries. But in this shared effort, I think we felt we were sacrificing something for the sake of the company. That was a click, an important one. And also my personal effort in trying to figure out something that was very new to me and taking that responsibility. So these were two moments where I felt this is becoming something more than a group of colleagues, maybe hoping to get more free in their work, in their professional lives. There was an investment at many levels. So this was important. And then what made me feel what was our special side. So you can understand, in 10 years, we were in our late 20s, early 30s. Now we are in our early 40s. Our lives changed a lot. There were many life events, of course, and some were happy, some were not happy. And we shared them all because we were friends from the start. And I think through the years, really, the sense of being able to count on each other, that the other person will always understand what is happening in your life and respect that and cover for anything. I think this was so important. And I think this really defines us as a group. And I never take it for granted. Also, because I'm one of the funding partners that then left. Because talking about life choices and life events, there was a very divergent one that happened right halfway through the Melting Pro story. So we are in 2015. I got married and I moved to America. So I said goodbye to Rome. And I said goodbye to some of my tasks at Melting Pro. Some others I managed to keep because of the patience and the availability of all my colleagues, because that was another aspect. You know, we were doing this for freedom. And so we're trying to allow each of us to really be able to not having to compromise one side of the life with the professional one. Then I became a mom in 2016. So that was more than moving, was probably one of the moments where you have to redesign your priorities. And so is it possible to still feel I'm part of this group, I'm a professional giving? So I think there was always an open channel in checking in with me from my colleagues' side, which allowed us to never feel like there was some this rupture, something disruptive. It was always it was changing, radically changing, but never stopped. So that's when empathy and understanding is one of the core dimension for our Melting Pro really felt real to me in my experience. So I was far away, my life was changing a lot, but I always felt there was an open door to Melting Pro as a company. My colleagues always had open ears listening to me and what I was going through. There was always room to build ideas together. I could start a call and say, I have a new idea for a new project, I would always find someone listening to me, even though I was very far away. And there was a patience to find new ways to talk and communicate and collaborate. Of course, I feared that I was pushing them to take up more work, and also that I would break momentum in some of the professional experiences that we were sharing. So it was complex, definitely complex, but always the connection with Melting Pro always kept being very, very real and very possible. Then the room for trust and hope. What happened is that in 2018, Melting Pro decided to invest in a consultancy program where we asked a professional team to support us to understand if we could become less project-based and more market-based. So we decided that after a relevant number of years, maybe we were ready to go in the market a little bit more and see if our services and our teaching could be offered at market level. And so we did the long path, a long program. It was almost 1 year long. I was still abroad, but I was taking part in it. It was important to keep also myself engaged in this consultancy. And that's where a little bit of a restructuring of our company happened. That's when we created 4 operational areas with one responsible for each areas. And an unexpected decision came, which was that of making myself in charge of development and strategic marketing. So what we tried to do is to make the most out of the fact that I was more of an external partner. So I was out of the everyday active operations, and I could probably keep a more neutral and cold eye on what was happening to try and push my colleagues and give them feedback out of their daily busy lives. I think I felt my group was still trusting my intuitions and my genuine care of Melting Pro. It was an important moment because I had been far away for quite a lot of time, but I was still very much connected, and also that there was room. So this was another important moment. And then, as I mentioned before, there was another big moment of change, which happened in 2020 with the pandemic. My life went through some big decisions that led my family to come back to Italy, which was something in the picture, but not exactly the way it happened because of a pandemic, as you can imagine. So I gradually merged into full operations again. So I felt once again that there was an absolute open door and patience to find new solutions and way to readjust to what the new scenario was offering for all of us, but especially for myself coming back from America to Italy. We were all working remotely now, which was my usual way of working from abroad, but certainly 2020 marked also a new form of exhaustion for our group. This feeling of always being able to be available and be online. I think my group really pushed their boundaries somehow, and I felt I was maybe more used to working remotely than them. Of course, I wasn't missing the office so much because it was not in my habit, but at the same time I had to invent a little bit this role as marketing and development, being part of their daily lives, which gave me a lot to rethink, a lot to keep changing in our group, which is exactly where we are now, because we're verifying how a more market-based and organized, not structured, organized model can really make our group happy, hence develop, and in which forms we can probably communicate and share without limiting our individualities. And I think that what really really keeps us going is the way our company, in its mission and ambition, because you heard that we wanted to invest in a consultancy, we wanted to become more market-based. So there are essential strategic objectives that we gave ourselves as a company, but this connection and alignment between what we do as a company and our and my core values in this story, that from the Brené Brown exercise, you can see what I came down to. I think Melting Pro never disappointed my expectation to live a life, a professional life, where self-determination and collaboration are both possible and both nurture the quality of my work. So this is the story of 10 years of Melting Pro. Okay.
Wow, a great story. Thanks for sharing.
I feel like I went to a therapy session.
Thank you, Giulia. So actually, what we wanted to do now is to ask you what resonated with you. And we were going to share some tips on storytelling, but I don't know, probably since it's the four of us, maybe you are already expert on that. So, you know, we wanted to ask you if, yeah, what resonated? What is your story that you would tell now in this moment that resonated with you? And you know, stories are stories about transformation. It's about overcoming obstacle. It's about you know, the way it's telling the way we change, and you know, stories tell our emotions, and you know, when we decide to tell a story, it's because we want to tell it in that particular moment, and we want to express a message, and it's all about, yes, owning our own emotions, you know, be self-aware of where we are now. Well, I mean, I could we just to share this because we also have a strong collaboration with the Story Center in Berkeley, and so we apply their method. So about, you know, owning our insights. So you know, why this story now? Why now? You know, what's the story actually we want to tell now? So making our point clear and find a specific moment, knowing our emotions, you know, what will help our audience understand that journey. And yeah, finding the moment, so be specific on that moment of change that we want to convey. And you know, of course, since it's storytelling, we need to follow the rules of storytelling. So follow the arc, so what it is, this transformational change. And so yeah, what we wanted to ask you now, if you want to spend some time to write down a story in 50 words, and how about yourself, about what resonated with you by listening to our stories, and then we will share them following these rules. So we will ask the storyteller to complete their presentation, to begin with an appreciative comment first, and then maybe comment and ask questions. And we want to foster the ownership of each story. So if we want to give feedbacks, we use the phrase, if it were my story. And yes, sorry, it's the same. If you want to give a feedback, we use the phrase, if it were my story. And don't be afraid of sharing our emotions, and maybe even have a Kleenex at hand if it goes too deep. So this, were some tips we prepared for this exercise, and so we want to hear from you, if you had a story to share now with us, of what you think maybe resonated with you.
Can we start from that? If there are parts of our journey that resonate.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, because actually you could tell the difference, right, between the story Antonia told and the story Giulia told. And clearly, as human beings, we resonate with one another. And when Giulia was going through what was going through her life, and I like that there are points in the story, right? This is the beginning, and there's a milestone here and then a milestone there. So that was a lot more engaging, obviously. And it really gave me such appreciation for the organization you guys have set up. And I just want to congratulate you for 10 years of doing this good work. I'm writing notes of making culture a tool for a better society, because even your goal is noble. And I work for a nonprofit, so I won't get rich doing what I do, but it's so important to be part of something bigger than yourself. And sometimes the people you work with is enough of a bigger than yourself. And so, I love, because Antonia and I talk about community in companies, and you definitely have that at Melting Pro. So I want to thank you for sharing your story. I also work for a storyteller, interestingly enough. And for us, what we've discovered is nothing is more engaging than a story of one person. And Giulia had demonstrated that too. So I have a go-to story of myself. It's not 50 words though. So it's a story of how I came to be a community builder. When I was backpacking when I was 20. And I went after Europe, I went to London. Sadly, I didn't go to Spain or Italy that time, but I have been to Spain, sadly not Italy, but I will. And I was in London, and I bought this book called A Different Drum by M. Scott Peck. And what happened there is I bought this book, and then eventually, I'm from the Philippines, although I live in Singapore. I went home to Manila after my summer in Europe and the UK. And I read this book. And it was about building a community. And before that, I read, and once I start a book, I will finish reading it, even if I don't like it. But I could not finish this book because it filled me with such yearning to build a community that it was physical. I had to stop reading it. I have never experienced that before. So I was 20 that time. And then I went full on into working, because I had finished university, working in communications and public relations, which brought me to, and then I had a job offer here in Singapore. So moved here, worked 20 years doing comms and PR. Totally forgot about that moment in when I was 20. And what happened was, my last job was at Disney. I was taking care of regional PR in Asia for Disney. And there was a restructure, and a few of us lost our jobs. And so I found myself having to look for a job, and I went to the nonprofit space to try it out, because I was working with children's charities when I was at Disney, and found Our Better World. And my role in Our Better World, it is just like you guys at Melting Pro. Our roles were very fluid. Like, oh, you're good at this, you do this. And I'm like, what? So it was like we were kind of fitting, what is your strength? Then you should do more of this. And then that's how we built the team. And so I was hired to do campaigns. And 3 years later, my designation was community. I was community lead. And so I didn't remember anything at all until one fine day, we were having one of those sessions to become a better team. And then we had to come and tell a story. And then the time it hit me, I suddenly remembered that book. And then I realized that, also I'm Catholic, so I also kind of am very faithful. And I had realized I made this story, right? We all make stories of our lives and what happens to us. And a part of me, and I realized when I remembered that moment, I thought, oh, I may have forgotten my dream, but God didn't forget it. I was meant to do this work. And, I can tell you, I don't know if you've ever heard this quote from Saint Irenaeus, is God's glory is a man fully alive. And I believe if you find what you're meant to do and you do it, the world is better, And so that's a story I told my team so I was really meant to do this work. So I don't regret losing my job, even though that was painful.
Thank you for the beautiful story you shared. Amazing. I wonder if you never got to finish that book in your 20s.
Yes,
you felt it would change your life, that you weren't ready.
Yeah, it's on my Amazon wish list, yes. How about you, Paco?
Well, thank you, the three of you for sharing your paths and your part of your story, So because I know that there's more, for sure. In 10 years of melting pot, well, we are just listening a piece, and for sure, and there are goods and bads, But I really appreciate, that well, you at the end are choosing the good part of this and the learning and the enjoyable part. But for me, it's fantastic, and thanks for sharing. I really like the story. I really like the organization. As I said, it's really good to understand and to like what you are doing. Well, in particular, I love culture. I think that is important, and all representations of culture, because I think that culture is everywhere. Is that artificial part? That I was saying that when we're talking about nature, culture, that is the artificial, that I think that deserves to be maintained, even that needs to be changed and evolved. I think that is culture. Is what is going to stay with us. The tradition is something that I don't like, but it's okay. As part of the story. But that was okay in another point of time. But if it's staying, it's because it's becoming part of us, no, of the different groups that we form, and that's, for me, that's a key element in building communities, no, and I think at least I apply to myself. I work a lot and I put a lot of pieces and I build my stories and some cases together with more people. Now I invite a lot of people to share those spaces, but at the end, there's a lot of chance and luck on what is happening, no? That we cannot manage that. It's an area that I want to explore and study in the future, but you have that great opportunity of having this group, no, of seven people with, and you found that the shared interest and the shared, and you build the purpose, no? Because the purpose is not clear normally, but you were able to find it, and values, as a matter of fact, is an important element, no, for what we have shared that, and I love that you put in the top of your slide, Julia, those values, no, that were used in different stages and were critical. So extracting that is fantastic. And you were using your strengths, no? So you were building on your strengths, no? So for sure there are a lot of unknowns that we cannot manage because we don't know them. But you were building your strengths, and that gave you the possibility to build. I think for me this is a story that I love, because for me this is the future of work. Well, I work with human resources a lot, no? And just the name human resources is like, we are things, no? But even human capital or people management, it's like directing the the thing is like conductist, no? So, and we are not lab rats, no? That, that we are in an experiment. But sometimes it's like the system and the management is treating us like that, no? And there are a lot of organizations that they are trying to manage people, not. And I think that you were building the system. I think that even starting with that Excel, no, and your Excel capabilities, you were managing the system and other people. That people work. It's something organic, and that was fantastic. And I think that on the future of work is great. So that we are able to do what we want, no. Unfortunately, I think, in my experience, the vast majority of people, and I have been working with multinationals for I don't know, more than 20 years now. No, I started working in human resources in particular in 1996, no, and with large corporations in 1992. No, so, and the vast majority of people are working what they can instead of what they want. So when you use that opportunity, that sometimes is forced, it's true that, and is that, again, using the chance and the luck and the serendipity that is happening. But when you use that and embrace that change, is fantastic. And this is a story of that. It's a story of change for sure, but sharing that change and building that change. And you talk a lot about sacrifice and dedication, and I love that. So I'm building step by step, no, because you were exploring, no. So it was good not to grow the first day, no. So, well, hiring that consulting firm in one point of time, it made sense, no, because you want to scale, you want to explore different things, but you were building, and that's ideal, no. If you do your Excel, that you are going to do mistakes for sure, that, but instead of hiring an accountant to take care of everything that you cannot manage, you cannot learn. And this is a story of learning, and that change, when that happens at the same time of learning, it's incredible. I love that part. I would love to see more of that with my startups and organizations, because it's not common, because this is not the regular human behavior, and this is fantastic. 10 years is a great success. So you just existing after 10 years.
Yes.
Well, you have crossed
that was
the
the
line.
feedback that we received. We tell ourselves, but it was, I didn't take it for granted ever, but at the same time, now rereading what allowed us, as Paco was, thank you, because you gave us the great feedback, even in times when we try to invest in the consultancy, and nowadays, 3 years later, we're still trying to understand what really makes sense out of that consultancy for our group.
Exactly.
It's an ongoing process, because some things were positive inputs but our group simply did not want or wasn't ready to really embrace. And I think sometimes, I don't know why I keep having this in mind. So Multipro is an organization, but I think of it more as an organism, something, a living body, because I think that's really what allowed us and allows us to allow to live through changes and adapt without this rupture or like breaking points somehow. And it's slower, definitely slower, but it's more organic. Everything happens in a
That's
flow
beautiful.
of, and now we are here in the process of living in the individuality to flourish and nurturing, and then always telling ourselves, yes, but how do we share? Is there enough time? This is one of the latest struggles. Is yes, we're all free, we self-determine, but then we really have to make time and make sure that we also share everything that each of us does. But thank you for adding a perspective on our story of learning. I really, really like that. Anto, what do you think?
Oh, yes, I liked it. When you said managing the system and not the people, that was really interesting among all the other stuff, and of course, Pago, you have a lot of experience in this because you build other companies.
I'm an old man, yeah.
No, but for startups, it's so interesting though, because I think that's where they all get really easily stuck at the beginning, how like to define and to design their functioning system. They really, really, and we also felt we needed some sort of structure. Sometimes that makes you feel more confident, more secure, but it's actually a projection more than a reality.
Well, yeah, keep exploring, because that's the key. It's true that we based our approach in having three main phases. It's exploring, evaluation or validation, and then impact and growing. But when you move from exploring to validation, you need to keep exploring. So it's not that you are stopping. And learning is something that is going to be all the time there. As a matter of fact, that concept of learning organizations is the top of the organizations, and it grows organically as well, no? And when it's not, and again, it's not that you or the organization, no, or someone in the organization is proposing those things, but these things are emerging. That is fantastic. So. And you need to maintain that. It's true that you are going to improve your processes, your systems, the product itself, and you are going to change. But you need to maintain that and constantly validating and so constantly listening. For sure, the team and more the customers, the users, the who are you impacting. And in your case, well, I think that as a matter of fact, you are in a fantastic time, because. And again, culture, I think that is critical to build the new societies and the new countries. For me, countries it's a concept that is from the past. It's a limiting belief. So, but the societies and the different groups that are going to be transnational. The borders are going to be there just for fiscal issues, but as a matter of fact, that is going to disappear. The money, I think, is going to disappear in some time, but and the work is going to be something different. So we'll keep building that. And culture is fantastic, because you are working in an area that is needed to the mindset transformation for the people that needs to be done, like implementing SDGs. So culture is essential, and learning what happened in the past, and what a lot of examples and stories, and recovering that part. But I can imagine. So going to the museum, that instead of watching things and having someone that is telling us about that object or picture or whatever, we have experiences, no, and stories. Because neuroscience is saying that, no, when you say, well, I'm going to tell you a story, our brain immediately connects with that and starts showing colors all around. So, well, you have a fantastic thing, and you can build on top of that a lot. So fantastic. I'm going to stop. I love the proposal.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Paco. Thank you, May. I think, Giulia, we reached 12:30, so I don't know. We don't want to keep you longer.
Our time is up, but did we put our emails in the presentation? Can we share? Can we keep in touch?
Yeah.
I'm going to share with you my email. And as a matter of fact, we are launching an event. I'm going to invite you to something. Well, do you want free mentoring for your organization or other organizations around you? Invite them, because we want to build the future of the planet and the life. So,
yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, thanks for the session, and we'll see you around, and we'll stay in touch for sure. I'm a follower now.
Great. Love that.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe just one word for checkout, as Lana always does.
For me, it's grateful.
Oh, thank
I'm
you very
grateful
much.
for 1.5 hours. Thank you so much.
And for me, is hopeful. I love this kind of
Did you
organizations.
Say hopeful?
Hopeful, yeah.
It was mine too.
Oh, sorry, you were late.
It's really nice.
No, but that's fantastic. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Antonia,
yes.
yours.
Sonia.
Yeah. Actually, my one was like May. Grateful for you and May to stay here with us, listening to us, and it was, your feedback was very useful, and we Giulia, we prepared the session, but we were also afraid because we didn't know who would show up, if that resonated, so.
Don't be afraid. You are building something fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Paco.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have a
May.
beautiful day.
Thank you.
Antonia,
You
May,
too.
Giulia.
Bye.
See you in the
Bye.
session.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.